Let's go over some basic communication etiquette. I think if you adhere to these guidelines, you're going to find that people are going to be a lot more responsive. So, for purposes of this discussion, we'll kind of bucket communications into three categories. One is going to be email, self-explanatory. On the other end will be phone call, again self-explanatory, and that middle will be messaging. Call it messaging. It refers to anything that's sort of instant and brief, sort of like a text message, a WhatsApp, a Facebook message, a WeChat, a Snapchat, a Marco Polo, whatever. We'll take email first. So an email, for the most part, is a reference, even for a record. But I don't necessarily, and you necessarily shouldn't expect a response unless it makes sense to discuss something over email. For example, I send you a document and I say, hey, this is my first draft, please give me your thoughts. Well, then it makes sense to kind of capture that discussion within the same thread, okay? But a lot of times emails aren't like that. It's like, here's an article, right? Well, you send somebody an article, I wouldn't necessarily, you're disseminating information, I wouldn't necessarily expect a response to that, okay? Now with messaging, you probably should expect a response, but not necessarily immediately. So with messaging, it's like, I'll see this, and okay, I'll get to it. I don't need to respond in some fashion, even if it's like a thumbs up, but I know I'll get to it at some point, at my leisure. So it could be an hour, but I think with messaging, generally a couple hours is acceptable to respond to a message, right? Now, if it may be a busy day for somebody and they wait till the end of the day and okay, I'm just going to go through all my messages and just give my responses. And in some cases, the person could be in the middle of something. It could wait till the next day. But generally, within 24, at least 48 hours, barring something unusual, you could expect a response to a message, or you should respond also, again, within a couple hours or, at worst 24, 48 hours. The phone call, now that's a little different. So the phone call is really something where you need an immediate answer. So for example, your significant other is at the grocery store, they call you, like, okay, you wanted orange juice, did you want it with the pulp or without the pulp? Okay, well, I want it without the pulp, thank you very much. That's not something where you could message because you may not get the message till after they left. So this is the case where you need an immediate answer, so a phone call is fine. Or, of course, if it's a prearranged date and time to have a call, because some things are a little bit easier discussed verbally versus going back and forth on email or a message, right? So then, of course, phone call is fine. However, if it's kind of, if you're ambushing people with phone calls, like like my phone rings, right? And I see it saying, hey, I'm thinking, okay, what do you need, right? And they're just like, what are you doing? Well, I could have been hanging drywall. I could have been in a meeting, or it doesn't even have to be that. I could just be in a thought process or relaxing in front of the TV. Regardless, this phone call is very intrusive, right? And so for that reason, it's kind of, important to save those types of things. That's more, for a text message. What are you doing, right? Because I don't have to really address it immediately. So if you adhere to these, general guidelines of etiquette, you'll find that you get a lot more responsiveness from people.